Hello, my name is Sherwin Borsick. I'm the president of the Meriden Historical Society, and I welcome you to the Moses Andrews Homestead, 424 West Main Street in Meriden, where our May exhibit is going to be entitled Vice in Meriden: Smoking, Drinking, Gambling, Meriden Products to Pursue These Bad Habits. Meriden's many businesses, many manufacturers produced numerous items over the years that enabled people to pursue their bad habits, be it tobacco, smoked or chewed, alcohol in its many forms, or gambling with cards or other means. Meriden's companies produced many products that could be used in pursuit of these bad habits, which became vices when done to excess. Let me take you through our exhibit as though you were able to attend it in person. And let's begin here with our table that covers tobacco. Our first item is a turtle form spittoon. I'm sure in many Western movies you've seen spittoons that look more like this one here to its left. This is a more typical form, and unfortunately chewing tobacco produces some very foul juice which has to be expectorated. And this one is very clever in that if you stepped on the turtle's head, his back would lift up, allowing you to use the container inside. So these two variations on the spittoon are our first couple of items in the exhibit. Then we have your typical smoking sets. For the smoker, there was a need for something to hold the cigars or cigarettes, an ashtray, something for matches, and this, interestingly, is an alcohol lamp. Back in the day when people were lighting matches, those matches were light anywhere matches that had phosphorus and sulfur in them. So if you lit your cigar or your cigarette with it, you get a big whiff of sulfur, which is something that nobody wanted. So they often included an alcohol lamp in these smoking sets so that you could light the lamp and then light your preferred tobacco product with the lamp. Over here to its right, we have a very clever looking owl form smoking set in which the matches were inside the owl, the ashtray below it, and then a receptacle for your cigars, typically not chocolate cigars like these from the Thompson Candy Company of Meriden, but tobacco cigars. Here's another type of smoking set which is interesting, made by the Meriden Britannia Company, in that it incorporates both silver and copper with a receptacle for your tobacco product, again something for matches, and an ashtray. Another prominent Meriden company was the Handle Lamp Company, which is known for its beautiful lamps which rival those of Tiffany. But these are a smoking set, and they have a very manly motif of the hunting dog with a bird in his mouth, and this was the humidor for your cigars. This would be for the cigar you were about to smoke, or perhaps cigarettes. Again, a match holder, and finally an ashtray, all with the same hunting dog appearance. Here behind it are items made by the C.F. Monroe Company, which is known for its decorated glassware. And here we have a central container for cigarettes, and on one side a container for matches, and this side could have been for a candle to light your tobacco product, or as an ashtray. Similarly, this one also is a combination of glass and wood and brass to hold your tobacco product, your matches, and your candle, or use as an ashtray. Now, back in the day, the Napier Company produced some very clever items, such as this one, which enabled you to hold your drink and then rotate the drink cup and reveal your hidden ashtray underneath. So in one hand you could hold both your ashtray and your beverage. This is a similar two-piece in which you would hold your drink here and your ashtray here. This is an Art Deco piece from the 1930s made for the steamship Normandy. And here you would just press here, and this would dispense a cigarette to you one at a time. Behind it we see some items for cigars, a cigar case manufactured by the Terrell Company and advertised in the Meriden's Journal Publishing. Then we have this typical penknife. Back in the day, most people carried some form of penknife, and this one has a little hole for your cigar end. You would press down the knife and cut off the tip of the cigar. Similarly, this little figure of an Asian gentleman had a receptacle on the back. You would press down and cut off the tip of your cigar. This uses the same Asian figure and was meant to be both a receptacle for matches and an ashtray. Here we have a match dispenser with the striking mechanism on the side. Again, those were strike anywhere matches, not like these safety matches. Here we have a table. On the table we have a floor model ashtray where you would put your cigarette in there and periodically depress the plunger to let the ashes fall into the bottom, made by the Manning-Bowman Company of Meriden. Here we have two items made by the Bradley and Hubbard Company, a tray for ashes that shows a man smoking a long stemmed pipe, and here a shelf form ashtray with a holder for your matchbox book. Further along we have a personal ashtray by the Napier Company. We have a secret tobacco stash in the form of a flower pot for your cigarettes made by the Manning-Bowman Company. And this, a cigarette dispenser made by Bradley and Hubbard. Further along we have a very unusual ashtray with a worm-type form. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, but a double ashtray in brass. And this is a stack of ashtrays made by Manning-Bowman, where you could remove as many as you needed for yourself or your party. Behind it are two early electric cigar or cigarette lighters made by the Manning-Bowman Company. You would press a button here behind, and this would light up and glow very much like the cigarette lighters in cars. Here's another one made by the Ready Light Company, and still another one that were table model cigar lighters, which when the button is depressed, they would glow and light your tobacco product. Here are a few match holders to hold box matches made by Bradley and Hubbard. This is a match safe. Back in the time when the matches were non-safety matches, they sometimes could ignite if you dropped one or if several were dropped. So match safes were created to keep them from igniting anything else in the house besides themselves. And this one, made by Bradley and Hubbard, has a striker in the top with these ridges, and as I say, the strike anywhere matches could strike very easily. Next to it we have a pocket match safe made by the Parker Company. Again, even if you were carrying these matches in your pocket, you wanted to be sure they didn't ignite when you sat down, and so you carried your matches in a pocket match safe. This is a table match safe made by Bradley and Hubbard in the form of a beetle. And again, you would have the matches inside. When you turned them over, there was a little striker on the bottom to strike your matches. This is a matchbox holder made by Manning-Bowman. This is a pocket holder for your little book matches made by the Napier Company. Very nice mixed metal with both gold and silver lines in it, and a place for a monogram. Match safes to hold your matches safely within your pocket were also used for advertising. And this one, I hope you can see, is showing Meriden's famous Castle Craig in Hubbard Park, embossed into the silver plate. It was a giveaway from the Adolf Lobel Company, probably a liquor or a tobacco manufacturer. Here's another one that incorporates a photograph of Castle Craig in Hubbard Park. Here we have a larger receptacle with phony coins on the top, holding an entire box of matches. In this case, they're safety matches. Back in the day, they might not have been. Here are a couple of ashtrays. This one in the form of a spittoon, which held quite a bit of your ashes, and made by the Napier Company. Here an Art Deco ashtray made by Manning Bowman with a Scotty dog back. Here another Art Deco ashtray made by the Manning Bowman Company with a fish form. Here we have a very interesting match holder made by the Manning Bowman Company, and these were called light-up matches. And as you pull one out, it ignites automatically. There's friction inside, and it was a strike-anywhere match. See, some of these have been used, and there are holes where the matches used to be. Here we have an interesting statue made by the Bradley and Hubbard Company entitled A Beginner. This is a young boy smoking perhaps his first cigarette, hiding the match from the wind with his hat. And it shows you that attitudes towards smoking were very different 125 or 130 years ago when this was produced. Here we have a combination silver over glass made by the Silver City Glass Company of Meriden, combination of an ashtray and a cigarette lighter. Then as we come around the table, we'll see how prominent smoking was in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and into recent times, with companies producing cigarette lighters with their advertising and producing numerous ashtrays which were given out by all kinds of businesses that you might expect and businesses that you might not expect. Meriden Surgical Supply Hospital Equipment gave out ashtrays. A shoe repair gave out ashtrays. Furniture companies, banks, the Home National Bank showing Hubbard Park. And then of course we had the cigarette lighters that were produced by the Cuno Company of Meriden, more recently known for water filtration, by restaurants, the Cabin Grill. And then here we have a very interesting and early Civil War era Chilean Pipe made of brass and lead, marked Waterman and Meriden, Connecticut on the other side, made during the Civil War. And this is essentially the same as this Art Deco cigarette holder made by the Napier Company, in which it held your tobacco product and kept it away from your face and your eyes. Smoke smarts when it gets in your eyes. Here's an ashtray from the Meriden Red Garter, along with one of the Red Garters that they gave out as souvenirs. Behind them, we have a couple of cigarette boxes, this made by the Rockwell Silver Company, which produced silver overlay as well as Silver City glass, and here a tobacco box made by the Napier Company. And even children were not discouraged that much from pretending to smoke, and here we have a label from Hump's brand cigarettes, chocolate cigarettes made by the Thompson Candy Company. Here we have various items to hold your cigarettes. This metal case transformed your soft pack cigarette box into a hard pack. This one allowed you to slide your cigarette pack into a holder, also by the Napier Company, and keep it from getting crushed. Your cigarettes were often transferred to a cigarette case, this one in the Art Deco style with enameling by the Napier Company, and you would put your cigarettes in here, in your pocket, outside the box, and keep them from getting crushed. Here's another one, also made by the Napier Company, with your initials. And this one is for the lady of the house, and this one has a nice blue enameling and a Scotty dog. For people who use their tobacco in other forms, here is a circa Civil War snuff or tobacco box made by the Charles Parker Company, known for their guns. And this one is marked Uncle, probably a present for someone's uncle, circa 1860. Behind it we have two tobacco humidors, both meant to hold your cigars. This one made by one of the Meriden silver companies. And this one incorporates both a holder for the cigars and a place for your candle, which, as I mentioned earlier, was a better way to light your cigars and not inhale the sulfurous fumes of your match. This is a very clever box made by the Bradley and Hubbard Company, which is embossed with the insignia of various tobacco companies: the camel for Camel cigarettes, the crown for Chesterfield, the coins for Old Gold, and Lucky Strike, Lucky Gold Strike. And those are the original tobacco packages inside. Now, if we move to this table over here, we'll see that cigar smoking was very, very popular, particularly in the 19th century. There was a resurgence, I believe, in the 70s and 80s when some movie stars began touting cigars. But every major town had some cigar makers, and Meriden was no exception. There were 2 or 3 different ones: Dawson Brothers, Merklinger, and Stremlau. And you can see that here's a label from Kunz, another manufacturer, showing Hanover Pond in Meriden. Here's one that showed the old Meriden City Hall, which burned down in 1904, giving you an idea of when these cigars were popular. And my favorite is Meridenite cigars for the Meriden smoker of cigars. And of course, we can't forget the Thompson Candy Company, which continues to this day to make chocolate cigars to celebrate the birth of a boy or girl. And that takes care of the tobacco portion of the exhibit. Now let's move on to liquor and alcohol products. Here we are at the alcohol portion of our exhibit, and the first item we're going to look at is a calendar by Fox's, which was a saloon, I believe, and circa 1909, with an archway and bottles of liquor. Above it are a very interesting series of items. These are saloon tokens that many saloons and bars would give out, tokens good for 1 beer, 5 cents off your first drink. And many people in Meriden remember Miller's Cafe on Broad Street, which gave out a plastic version. These ones are much earlier, circa 1910 or 1920, in metals by various Meriden saloons. Advertising of various stores that sold liquor, package stores in the day, often incorporating a thermometer. This one has a little Dutch boy and girl and a Dutch motif by O'Loughlin's House of Good Spirits, or even this very fancy Pinkovich package store combination of a thermometer and a barometer to tell you the weather. Now, the onset of Prohibition in the 1920s killed off a lot of the saloon businesses, but it was possible, if you were well connected, to get alcohol through your physician as a prescription for alcohol from various pharmacies around town. Here's some French brandy from the Cosmopolitan Pharmacy on East Main Street in Meriden. And then later on, and before Prohibition as well, the imbiber could take along their favorite beverage in their own hip flask or pocket flask. This is a very cute one meant for the ladies, and it has a rebus on it. It says only 2 swallows. Small one. This one has a clever scene of 2 young people, apparently lovers, and it says, a body meet a body coming through the rye. Oh, it says gin a body, meet a body. And gin is, of course, the gin, and rye is, of course, rye whiskey. And it shows the grain used to produce those beverages. Here's another very pretty heart-shaped feminine flask with flowers. And this is a male version of a flask with a nice fish in a net. And here we have one that simulates a basket weave. Most of these were made either by the Napier Company or one of the Meriden silver companies. Behind them we have items for the home bar. We have a very nice insulated, vacuum insulated ice bucket made by the Manning-Bowman Company, ice tongs made by Napier here with a bamboo motif, and here an Art Deco motif by Manning-Bowman. Here we have a couple of Julep strainers, or just strainers for your cocktail shaker. And this is a very clever little recipe charm made by the Napier Company. You would rotate this and it would tell you the recipe for an old-fashioned and what went into an old-fashioned or various other mixed drinks. This, back from the 19th century, is a very nice holder with a bird motif and various soldiers for your rum, whiskey, and brandy, all beautifully embossed in gold. As we come around to the other side of this table, we have a pinch bottle form of cocktail shaker. You'd produce your drink and then you would pour it, and it incorporated something to keep the ice cubes from coming out. These are particular favorites of mine. These are bottle holders, and if you wanted a handle for your wine or you wanted to serve a vintage that wasn't of the finest, you could just hide it in here, serve it at your table, and most people would not be any wiser. Here we have a nice tray made by the M.J. Duran Company, the only steamed beer in the city. Phone number 58, Meriden, Connecticut. You can imagine how early a phone that was to have the number 58. These are drink muddlers for stirring your drink, made by the Manning-Bowman Company. Meriden had its own breweries, of course. There was Connecticut Valley Ale, and this is a noisemaker to ask for service. Here are a couple of ice picks made by the Meriden Ice Delivery Company. A selection of bottle openers from various package stores, as well as from the Connecticut Brewing Company. Later on I'll show you a beer barrel from that same Connecticut company. Here we have from Johnny's Grill in Meriden a Maraca cup. When you wanted service, I suppose you shook your cup and indicated to the bartender you needed a refill. Here's wine jelly from the Goodman Brothers Company. They made various jams and jellies. Back here we have a number of other cocktail shakers made by the Manning-Bowman Company, International Silver Company. This one a beautiful Art Deco one with a Catlin bottom and a rooster motif and a masculine motif. This one made by Manning-Bowman with wrapped handles and lid. And another one by Manning-Bowman with wooden accents. And this, a drink server by Manning-Bowman, along with its pretty stir. In the front we have various jiggers made by International Silver and the Napier Company. The Napier Company is very much known for its barware. This one indicates 2 fingers as opposed to 1 finger of your alcohol. This one is stepped to show ½ ounce, 1 ounce, 1.5, and 2 ounce, telling you how much you were mixing. Another one, silver on glass, made by the Silver City Glass Company. This a pourer made by the Napier Company, pouring out 1 serving at a time. This a gavel form jigger made by the Napier Company when you were putting in 1, 2, or 3 ounces of liquor. Also by the Napier Company, a Canary lemon press when your drink called for lemon. this a combination of several items. It's a bottle opener, a jigger, recipes, and a gambling device where you would spin it and it would be either heads or tails, and I'm not sure what you were betting, but you could bet with it as well. Here we have a couple of Meriden High School reunion Brandy Snifters, small ones. The 25th reunion of the 49ers. Behind it, we have 3 different beer mugs, or steins. This one with a lovely Native American motif. And these were made by a pottery company for the Manning Bowman Company, which made the metal portions. Often these were used as trophies as well, and so engraved. Here's another one of a monk drinking his favorite beverage. And here we have one in the form of a barrel of liquor. In front of it, we have something that most people have never seen, and this is a foam scraper to scrape the foam off your foaming mug of beer, made by the Connecticut Valley Brewing Company of Meriden. As we come around here to the right, we can see that Meriden had quite a number of breweries, and this indicates the chronology of when they were in business. And if you look at it carefully, you'll see that most of them were out of business by the Depression. These are bottles of their liquor product, Connecticut Valley Brewing Company of Meriden, Connecticut. Here's an earlier embossed Meriden Brewing Company bottle with its seal still there, a bit rusty, but still there. International Silver produced a special bottle opener with their insignia, and this was their 1847 to 1967 anniversary. And then, of course, various restaurants and bars in Meriden gave you your cocktail with a cocktail stir that was identified with that particular restaurant or liquor store. And here we have a souvenir of Patsy's Restaurant, the South Meriden House, Lou Duncan's Restaurant, Nut House, the Sun Valley Acres in the form of a skull and bone. And they all had their own cocktail stirs, and they would be taken home as souvenirs from the Cabin Grill, Smokes Restaurant, the Poe Cozy Nook. Many of these I've never heard of, but some of you will be familiar with them. And that concludes the alcohol portion of the exhibit. My error. Actually, there are 4 more items in the alcohol portion of the exhibit. This is a beautiful wooden sign for Meriden Brewing Company Nutmeg Beer with a top-hatted, bearded man at home and bottled at the brewery for family and medicinal use. With a gun over the hearth, cauldron with food, and this is another. This is a calendar from 1914 for Connecticut Valley Ale with an early open automobile, and the driver is dressed with long coat and goggles, which was pretty much the way the early automobile drivers dressed. And then finally, the Duran Company, which produced that lovely beer tray I showed you earlier. This is their steamed beer delivery truck with the old spoke wheel tires. Here we have a very recent donation to the Society, a Connecticut Brewing Company beer barrel circa 1917. Amazing that it survived this long, likely in somebody's basement. Now we come to the gambling portion of the exhibit. Playing cards were very popular, and you can see here a selection of playing cards given out by various businesses, including Gross Clothing Store, Stockwell's, Barker's, Permanent Savings, and other Meriden companies. Here we have a card holder made by the C.F. Monroe Company, which is opal glass, which has been hand painted in a brass trimming. Here we have two gambling related pieces of jewelry made by the Napier Company, one showing the ace of hearts, the other a single die. Between them we have what is, perhaps you might disagree, a gambling token from Jester's Courtyard, which was an arcade in Meriden that some of you may remember, where you could gamble your tokens and win prizes. Here we have a fan that was given out by F. Werner with a number that entitled you to potentially win one of our best cakes. So an early lottery. Here we have two playing card design ashtrays made by Manning Bowman, here with the king and his cup, and here the queen. On this side we have some very clever playing card holders with somewhat difficult to read texts, but this one says high time. This one says follow suit. This one says three of a kind beats two pair. All made by the Meriden Silver Companies. And this one actually incorporates a counter with celluloid numbers that you could rotate to show the score. In a similar vein, these are trade cards which were given out by various businesses in the 19th century and early 20th century. This one is from the August Schmelzer Company. Schmelzer dealt in postcards, coal, and many other products. And this is a counter for keeping track of your game score. This is the back side, this is the front side with the ace of spades in the king's hand. This is a serving tray for nuts or something else that you desire to serve at your card party, with the king and the queen and the jack of clubs. And even the base is a club motif made by the Wilcox Silver Plate Company of Meriden. This final item is a card press. Now, after you've been playing with your cards for a long time, they would tend to get a little bit curled and wrinkled, and you would just put them in this card press and then turn the handle here, and it would squeeze them tight until the next time you played cards. So an early silver plate card press. These items are clippings from Meriden newspapers related to smoking, drinking, and gambling, and various raids that the police had to stop these types of activities. Pratt Street store raided by police for gambling, $300 fine for race betting, local bootleggers take in enormous profits through hooch making scheme, and all of these are somewhat difficult to read in the original, but Deborah Patterson has generously produced an output that's much more readable. These are interspersed throughout the exhibit, and if you were to attend in person, you'll be able to read them all. Now, I'd like to thank the contributors to the curation of this exhibit, specifically Bruce Stravinsky, Deborah Patterson, and some of it is of my own collection as well. I'd like to tell you that the Meriden Historical Society is a 501c3 not-for-profit. We rely on donations of both materials and funds to help us pay for our expenses. If you've enjoyed this exhibit, please feel free to visit our website, meridenhistoricalsociety.org, to learn more about Meriden and the activities of the Historical Society. We'd also encourage you, if you're feeling generous, to make a donation to the Society via PayPal, and there is a link on our website to do so. I thank you for your attendance virtually and in person should you choose to be able to visit us. In May, we will be open every Sunday from 11 to 3 at 424 West Main Street in the Andrews Homestead, just beyond McDonald's as you head west on Main Street. Thank you for visiting with us today.